Yeah, I forgot. I needed more lunch. Welcome to installing and inspecting a Nucleus hive. Today we're going to install this 5-frame Nucleus hive into this beehive, and I'm going to show you that process and how to do it. If you're a totally beginner, this is a good thing for you to learn. We also have a quick start guide. If you want to click that link, that's going to be in the comments, or not in the comments, but in the description. You can get a quick start link and also be on our email list to get to some of these free trainings that we're going to do in a different area. We're not going to put everything up on YouTube anymore because we have some other things that we're going to do in the future. So I think with that, I'm going to start installating. If everybody's there, it's going to be here. Everybody's going to come in. So the first thing you want to do is have your smoker. And these guys are pretty happy. It's 74 degrees here. They're not going to do anything.
Louder.
This is a carny hive. So these are carniolans. They've been sitting here for 5 or 6 days. So if you watched that video that we did the other day about transporting honeybees, then you'll know that we got them and that it wasn't great. The weather wasn't great. And I told you, if you have nukes, you can just put them out and let them fly, and they'll be fine. You can give them a little smoke. But like I said, I got a full Beesuit on. They're happy. They're flying around. They're just checking out their area. These guys are a little bit scared now because I just put them in a new place. But the key to this is, see, these have been here for about almost a week, but I put them right next to where they're going. And then this one's going to go in a hive here, and then this one's going to go in a hive here. So as long as they're within 10 inches of where they're going, they can smell their queen. When they come around, they'll try to go into that one, they'll smell it, and then they'll smell this one, and they'll say, oh no, this is our queen. And you may get a little drift from side to side, but it's not going to be a big deal. If you get a lot of drift, it means your queen is gone, and they're going to the queen that they can smell. So that's a problem with packages, not usually with Nucleus hives. So the first thing you want to do is, I'm going to try to get this in the camera, and I have my beautiful wife Julie over here, and she's my production assistant. So she's going to tell me if I'm getting these things right, because I can't see what I'm doing here.
And I'm manning the chat.
And she's manning the chat. She's going to try to keep your questions. And so, can you see that?
Yep, tilt it down just a little bit more. There
So
you
the
go.
first thing that you want to do is you want to look down in here and count the seams of bees, just to kind of judge and gauge the strength of your Nucleus hive. So I can't see it from this angle, so I'm going to go down, and that looks to me like about 3, maybe 4 seams of bees. This one's not super full, but the seams are what's considered the bees between the frames. So that's kind of what you want to do. Just so you know, you can make notes of this. You can take a little notebook, especially if you have as many as I do, and keep track. If you just have 1 or 2, then you're going to remember.
And our quick guide outlines all of that.
Yes, and our quick guide outlines all of that. You can download it, and the link will be in the description. You might be able to press Control C and put the link in the chat, honey, but I don't know if it's still there. I had copied it, or I mean Control V. I had copied it and put it in there, but we turned the computer off and on.
Yep, it's there.
So the first thing is that you want to look at this frame and just kind of gauge like what's going on. So we're installing and inspecting. So see, we're going to look at these bees. They look very healthy. They're happy. They're moving around. See how calm they are? How's this look in the camera?
Lift it a little higher.
Higher?
Yep.
Okay. So that's what you're looking for. And I'm going to blow on them a little bit. Bees don't like your breath, so they move out. So you don't have to smoke or do any of that. But see what we have here? We have, I don't know if you can see that. Can they see the eggs? I don't know how close it can focus.
You can see the little old cells that are full, but you can't see the tiny little speck.
Can you see the little eggs? Too
No,
close?
But that's a really good shot.
You can't see the eggs down in there?
Yep, come back. Come back towards it. Okay, wait, I gotta wait to catch up with you.
Oh yeah, she's on a delay.
Now, stop. There's eggs in the bottom center
So
of the
up.
screen. Why do you move the screen?
Oh, sorry. So anyway, those are what eggs look like. They look like little tiny grains
there.
of rice.
Right there. If they look at their screen, bottom center.
Bottom center, you got eggs. So this tells me that this nuke is really strong because this is the 5th frame all the way on the outside. There's eggs. There's brood that is hatched already. So you can see the orange cells that have a cap on them. Those are what's called brood. And those are the bees that are about ready to hatch. So they're like 21 days old and they're getting ready to hatch out, or emerge, I guess is the proper term. I always say hatch and people say they're not, they're not eggs, they're not chickens, but whatever. So this tells me that this is a strong nucleus, because in 22 days this frame is going to have 6,000 bees on it, and you can see the other side. So as I'm inspecting this, I'm looking for signs of maybe disease, signs of queen cells, especially in one that's this full. So I blow on them. If you have one that's super full, you might want to shake all these bees off into your hive and check for queen cells. I don't feel I have to do that, but there are a couple like this one. If you see this in the camera, see how many bees are in this one? This one may have queen cells. You got to ask the guy that you buy them from, the guy or the girl. You know, they usually tell you, these are a little weak, it's been cold, the weather's not been great, these are really strong, you need to put them in right away when you get them because they could swarm. So you just get that information from the people that you buy them from. So the first step, what?
Make sure you talk about the orientation.
Oh yeah. And so the first step that you want to do after opening them and inspecting them is you want to put this frame in the same place as it was in this nucleus hive and the same orientation. And my wife, when we were doing this quick start guide, she told me a great tip. See, my problem is I've been doing this for so many years that I take all this for granted and I do it so quickly, but when it's beginning, I forget all the stuff that I didn't know when I was beginning. So her tip was, before you do anything, take your pen or your marker and mark an X on this part of the frame, so that you know that that's the front. And you want to put your bees back the way they were in this, because they've been in this for probably a couple months, and they're oriented that way. They filled their food and their stores and their eggs and everything that way, and it's just less work for them. If you turn that frame, they might want to rearrange some, and so they're going to waste time doing that. So the next step is the same process. We're going to move this frame away. I forgot to mention why we do this. So we start on the outside because the queen is generally in those middle 3 frames, and you don't want to pull that middle frame out and do that, because you could roll the queen. That's called rolling the queen. You could break her back, or her, I don't know if she has a back, but her midsection, her thorax, and then she will be dead. So we usually start from the outside, either the left side or the right side. I'm left-handed, so I start from the left side. Maybe a right-handed person would start from the right side. I don't know. So I always start, you just want to start from the outside, and then you want to move this frame away from that one so that when you pull this up, you don't crush any bees. And again, I'm looking for indications of maybe a queen cell. I'm also looking for the queen. If I see her, I'll show you. And this is a great time to mark the queen if you do see her. And we have indicated a video on the Quick Start Guide, one of my videos on how to mark the queen. If you're not comfortable doing that, you don't have to. The only thing you care about when you're checking these is if there's eggs. And if you see eggs, you know that your queen is in there. You don't have to see her. You don't have to put your paws on her. You know she's in there because every egg will turn into a larva in 3 days. So this means that at least 3 days ago, she was there. And so that's it. So this is a beautiful frame of brood. I'm going to flip it up nice and gently. Another really good frame of brood. They're nice and calm. They've got some stores. You can see on the outside here, pollen. So what you want to look for again is pollen and maybe some nectar. They don't have a lot of nectar, but they have enough. We have a flow going on right now, a small flow, but the pollen is starting to come in. We've got some honeysuckle and mustard, and we're just starting with the black locust. Now we live in Northwest Indiana, so we don't have a ton of black. We're not like Tennessee or Kentucky, but we have a bit because we have some rivers, and we have some what do you want to call them? We have some interstates where, for whatever reason, where they cut the interstate, the black locust trees like to grow along those corridors. Maybe because there's more water there, the drainage. I'm not sure why. So again, we're going to put this in the same position and the same orientation. My X is right there. Don't do that because bees don't like vibration. And then I'm going to push them right back to where they were. I have not yet seen the queen, but in my mental state, or I'm keeping track of, I've got 2 really good frames of brood. So that's one of the things you want to keep track of when you're putting your nucleus in, is how much brood you have, because it kind of tells you how to manage them. So here we go, frame number 3. Pry it off, slide it over, pull it out, and give it some eyeballs.
Wow.
These are amazing. Thanks, Tim from Willowbanks, from Heritage Honeybees. This is the first time I bought his Nucleus Colonies. I usually buy packages. I used to buy Nucleus Colonies in the old days, but then they got expensive. But now the packages have become so expensive that sometimes it feels like it's better to buy the Nucleus Colonies. One nice thing about whoever he got these from is these are all brand new frames, maybe a year old. You see these, you get this box. It's all part of it. So, you know, that all factors into it. You know, in the old days, I had some nukes that I got from Beekeepers, and they gave you the worst frames that they just didn't want. They were breaking and nasty frames, but these are pretty impressive. All right, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic here. All right, so here's a queen cell, actually a queen cup. I don't know if, tell me if you can see this, Julie, right there.
Yes, come a little closer.
Okay, so that is called a queen cup. And this is something normal that the bees do all the time. That's not a queen cell, because we have to see if there's an egg in it. So what we want to do is we want to just check it. No egg, so no worries, right? They're not preparing to swarm. They didn't lay an egg in it yet. That's just something that they normally do. And here is the little plastic cup of the queen cell that they put in this nuke. So what the commercial beekeepers do is they take these frames from really strong hives that they usually bring back from the almonds, or maybe they're just overwintering them somewhere and they're really strong. And they put a grafted queen egg in this little cup, and they put her in here, and then she hatches and she continues on with this with these bees that they pulled out of one of their hives from the almonds. So what you got is a new queen. So she hatched this year, so she'll be really good this year, and next year she'll be amazing, because second year queens are the queens that you want. First year queens, they're just getting started, their ovaries are getting, and but they lay the second year. If you can overwinter them, they are the best in their second year.
Why'd you squish it?
Why did I squish what? Oh, why did I squish the cup? I just did because I opened it, but if you had an egg in there, here's another one right up here. There's another one right there. If you had some with eggs in them, what you'd want to do to keep this from swarming is you'd want to destroy them. But before you did that, you'd want to make sure your queen was still in here, because if she's already gone, maybe she swarmed when they were transporting these. Maybe she got killed when they were transporting them and she was in the bottom. And you know, when I opened these, the first thing they did was they got rid of all the dead bees and put them out here in the front. Because, you know, when these shake around on the semis and then they're in there and they get hot or they get cold, or bees just die, right? Bees only live 30 days in the summertime. And so every day you're going to have, in a big hive, you're going to have between 400 and 700 bees die of natural causes. But they don't die in the hive. They fly out at night and they die. So when you start looking at your bees at night, go there with the lawn chair, sit there like a geek and watch your bees. They go out and they grab a blade of grass, and you'll be like, oh no, that one's not going to make it back. It's getting dark, it's getting cold, and that's right. They die out of the hive. They try not to leave themselves dead in the hive, because that creates dirt. So I'm blowing on these. The whole time I'm yakking, I'm looking for that queen. I haven't seen her yet. But I would say that she's probably pretty fat, because if she's laying like this, she's got to be pretty big. I haven't seen any queen cells to indicate that she got injured or something in transportation, and that does happen. When you transport honeybee hives, when the commercial beekeepers do that, they lose about 15 to 20% of their queens from them banging around. Maybe they get squished, maybe the bees kill them because they're mad because they're on the back of a semi and they're getting vibrated for 3 days until they get to where they're going. We don't really know, but they do lose about 15 to 20% of their bees, their queen bees. So this one looks great. Again, I would say that one's about a half a frame of brood, but there's a lot of larvae on that one. I didn't talk about larvae yet. If I don't see any on this next frame, I'll pull this frame back out. It's not a big deal. We're here to learn. As you see how calm this is. This is why you see a lot of people, experienced beekeepers, they're out with their Beesuit, because these bees are calm. They might have a helmet on, they might have just a veil, they might not have anything on. Some of the guys that are really good, I don't like doing that because you just never know. I don't recommend beginners do that because if you drop something like this hive tool, they could come up and sting you. But if you know what you're doing and you have nice gentle bees like these, you could easily do this without protection, but I would not recommend it. All right, so frame number 4. Wow, this is an amazing frame of brood on this side. I don't know what it looks like on this side. Let me get a look at it. So you can see what they're doing here. Let me blow. So what's happened is some of those bees have hatched, and then they filled those little holes with nectar because they're getting, they don't have any more space. So as soon as I put this in that big hive with 5 more empty frames, they're gonna take all that nectar out of those little cells, and the queen's gonna come back and lay eggs in those cells. If you didn't have any experience, you might think this was what they call a spotty brood pattern. You say, oh, my queen's failing because it looks like a shotgun pattern. But that's not the case, because I know that this thing is so full that they're putting nectar wherever they can put it. And these, like I said, these bees have been here for almost a week, and they've been bringing in nectar, and they had nowhere to put it because they're full. So that's what's going on there. I'm still looking for the queen. Can you see the bees with the pollen? Can anybody see the bees with the pollen? See this little girl here? She's got pollen bags. Yellow pollen, that's the mustard. It could be dandelion, but most of our dandelions have already gone to seed here. We've had crazy weather. We had 70 or 80 degrees early in April. And now we have had 50s the last couple of weeks. It's going to be 80 this week, which is unusually warm for Indiana. It went out of focus, okay. I'm turning over to see. I do not see the queen yet. I'm still looking. There she is. Whoa, she's one of my favorite queens. I love the queens that are like black with the golden stripes. The Carniolan queens. And she's vigorous. And this is my other favorite kind of queen. See how vigorous she is? She is not taking no for an answer. She just goes wherever she wants. There she is on the top, and she is doing her job, and that's what you want to see. If you see a lethargic queen that's like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, this one is like, she is moving. She's like, get out of my way. I'm laying an egg. I'm looking for a cell. This is another indication that this hive is too full. They're going to love these combs that I give them because look, she's looking in every cell trying to find one. These are all capped. They all have nectar, and she's like, I need to lay an egg. I need to lay an egg. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's the signal that the other bees give the queen when they bring in pollen in mass quantities like they're doing now. That signals to the queen that she needs to lay. There she is right there. Can you still see her? Beautiful with golden legs.
We have one comment. Alan said, awesome. Shannon wants to know, what does nectar look like on the frame?
Oh, okay, here we go. The nectar, here's this top corner.
There we go.
That's nectar. So it's like water. Looks like liquid.
Tilt the bottom up a little bit to see if maybe the light will, and lift it up a few inches. There you go.
So this top corner is nectar, and then right next to it is pollen. It's yellow. Yellow and orange.
It is difficult to see, but it'll kind of...
Maybe if I turn it this way.
Yep, wait, go back. A little, go back. Wait, stop right there. Right there. You can see the reflection in the top left corner.
Yeah, so right here in this corner where there's like a reflecting in each one of those cells, that's nectar. So that becomes honey. But at this stage, it's just nectar, because what it is it's 80% water and 20% sugar from flowers. And until they, or actually more than that, it's probably 99% water, 1% sugar, because honey is like 19% sugar. So they're just bringing it in, they convert it. Usually they use the nectar with the pollen to make something called bee bread. So they make a fermented bee bread, just like we would make a fermented bread, and then they feed that to the larva. And that's what I was gonna say. So I'm gonna put this one back because the queen's on here and I don't want anything to happen to her. She's happy, but I don't see any larva on this one. I'm gonna go back to the other frame and show you what a larva is, because this one has eggs and it has larvae that are very, very young. So they just hatched, which is like what happens is the queen lays an egg, and then 3 days after she lays it, it turns into a little bitty larva, which is still about the same size as an egg. But maybe 5 to 7 days after that, the larva starts getting bigger and starts to look like a grub. So I'm gonna pull this thing back out and try to find those big ones that I saw and show you where they're at. Let's see if I can find them. Here we go. They're in this section right here. I don't know if it's going to focus down that deep, but those are larvae that are floating in royal jelly.
Yep, you can see them right in the center of the screen.
Right in the center of the screen. So those are larvae and floating in royal jelly. And so the other thing that tells you is that these bees are getting the nutrition that they need. If they can make that amount of royal jelly to float their larvae, that's the nutrition that you want for your bees. Sometimes you'll see when you do a lot of inspections, so let's say, one year I had 80 hives and I did 5 inspections a year, so that's 400 inspections. So that's the kind of thing. It's something you got to do over and over again. But you could go into a hive and see all those larvae and they're dry and they're that big. So that means that those bees, for whatever reason, either they weren't gathering the right amount of food, maybe we had a dearth and there wasn't anything blooming, maybe I made them too big with pollen patties. There's a lot of reasons. Maybe they had mites or something was hurting them, and there's a lot of reasons that you can have malnutrition. But what you want to see is these larvae floating in that royal jelly from about, I would say, day four until you cap them, which is day 10, I believe.
Queen cup on the bottom of that.
Yeah, there's another queen cup. But again, I'm looking at them. There's no eggs. She seems to be happy. I'm going to put this one back. Let's see now. Look, I just pivoted. I have a terrible sense of direction. I don't remember where I'm at, but luckily my X is still here. So I remember that the X goes there and that this is frame number 3. And it goes right there. My queen is on frame number 4, but it's okay because I'm not gonna pull it up or anything. I'm just gonna slide it nice and gentle up there. All right, so we got 4 frames of brood, we got lots of eggs, we got lots of larvae, we got good nutrition, and we have a queen. So, we're doing really well here. Now we got the 5th flame. And this is classic nectar. See if you can see that. So this is going to be honey. So what happens is the outside frames tend to become pollen and honey in a big hive. And the reason they do that is because honey, once it's full and capped, it becomes like an insulator. So it's like insulation to them. So what they want to do is they want to surround their whole cluster with honey so that when they keep this warm in the winter, it's like a heating blanket. So if they keep this at 90 degrees, it stays warm. It doesn't get cold as quickly as the outside temperature does. So usually on a 10 frame hive, you'll have the outside 2 frames on both sides in the fall full of honey. Not this time of year because they're growing. So this is the only one. And what's going to happen is they're going to move this, probably going to move this nectar to the outside, or they're going to use it to make more bees. So now on this side, you can see the pollen. So they're just starting to pack that pollen in the middle there. Different colors. So there you got the yellow and the orange pollen. They pack it in. They get it right off their little bags and they pack it in there. And as you can see, this is a very new comb. These are some really nice nucleus colonies. There's a bee right there in the middle with the big pollen bags. I don't know if you can see that one. But she's going, she's trying to find a place to put it. She's got her little saddlebags all full. And I'm not sure how they figure out where to put it. I don't know if the other bees tell them. Probably they go, hey, go over here, do this, do that. Who knows? All right, so this is the 5th frame. So typically, if you were just doing an average hive, which I would say this is not an average hive, this is a little bit above average. In our quick start guide, we have a little table that we made that shows you I just had a few bees in the bottom there and I knocked them, but look how they're not trying to go to this box. Look, they smell their queen. They know exactly where they're going. Look, they're trying to go here, but they're going to smell there in that opening and they'll go right there. And that's why you see some bees right there. See how they're coming here? Because they're trying to go back to where they were, but then immediately they buzz this way and they smell her and they go right in. So that's why it's not going to be a big deal to do this. But since this nucleus is so strong, I'm going to do something that I would encourage you to only do if you know what you're doing. Because typically we got these late, but sometimes you get them in early April and it's still cold. You don't want to split the brood nest when it's cold because they're trying to keep it warm. It's like the size of a football, and then the rest of the outer part of it is food. So you don't want to split it, but since this thing is so strong and I don't want it to swarm, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this brood nest by separating it right here in the middle. It's not really in the middle because there's 3 and 2, but you can't separate 2 and a half, so I'm going to separate that. And this really works this time of the year. It's not something you really want to do in the fall, but this time of year they're in wax building mode because they're bringing in so much sugar. Maybe you're feeding them sugar syrup if you don't have a flow yet, if you got these much earlier. And what you want to do is you want to put a drawn comb or a comb with wax foundation in the middle there. And I've got this comb right here. I'm going to check these to see which one's the best. None of them are really super great, but they all have wax and some food on them. And this one, it's got some wax moth damage on it and some other things, but it's going to be okay. So what I've got is I got some drawn comb, and there's some wax moth damage. There's some old sugar. There's the wax moth damage, but they're not in here. They got killed by the winter. There's nothing else alive in here, and there's a little bit of, I don't know what that is, old pollen and stuff, but they'll pull all of that out of there. But what they don't have to do is they don't have to build all this comb, and they can clean this out in 24 hours. If I pull this out tomorrow and looked at it, it'd be totally clean, and then that queen will start laying in here. And what the bees don't like is they don't like foundation in the middle. This isn't really foundation because it's already drawn, but if you took a frame with what's called wax foundation on it, and that's just a piece of wax, and you put it in the middle there, they hate that. So they immediately go to work to make that into drawn comb. So that's one way to get them to draw it out. And if you really wanted to, you could do what's called checkerboarding, and you could separate this every other frame and put the bees in there. I'm not going to do that because I think they're doing fine. This one extra frame, and I'm going to put the other ones on the outside. Because we do have some cold weather coming. Like I said, it's going to be 80 for a couple of days, but then it's going to go back down into the 50s. So I'm not going to do that. This one is really nice on that side, not so nice on this side. So what I'll do is I'll put that one out here. And these can go in anywhere, any direction. What was that?
I had a question about how long it takes for the nectar to become honey. And I know that the bees will fan their wings and the moisture will start to evaporate, and it's about 17% moisture, but how long does that take?
It really depends on the part of the world that you're in and how much relative humidity you have. So, but that's a fantastic question. So a good hive like a strong hive that's totally full of bees can fill a box, which is called a super. I'm looking around, I don't have one right here, it's a smaller box, but they can fill the super in 10 days. So if this is a strong hive, it has 2 levels, and I put those honey boxes on top of it, they can fill that in 10 days. Now, they can't get it down to honey in 10 days, but they can fill it. And then they start fanning it. I don't know exactly how long it takes, but like my wife said, it's only honey when it's below, some of the professionals say 19% because they can dry it, but usually 17% is the number. And you can actually get a little device called a hydrometer, and you can check your honey to see if it's really honey and it's not nectar. I do a test where I take it and I shake it, and if it doesn't come out, it's honey. If it comes out, it's still nectar. That's kind of the test that I do.
Okay, and then Doug, we have another question about how often you inspect. And I said every 10 to 14 days, unless you see something that you need to watch closely. Can you just talk about that?
Absolutely.
So beginners know?
Absolutely. That's really good advice. Every 10 to 14 days, and the reason it's 10 to 14 days is because it takes 14 days to make a queen. So let's say that I was an idiot and I killed that queen when I put this in, and it can happen, you know, if you're not paying attention and you don't see her and she's between those, let me show you this, she's between the ears here, you know, those on those wooden things, those ears stick out, and if that bee gets in between there and you don't see her and you push those frames together like I just did, well, you just killed your queen, and you'll never know. But you will, because you're going to come back to this hive in 10 days and inspect it, and you're going to see that there's probably still eggs, there's larvae, they've drawn out those combs if you put in foundation, they've fixed these combs if you put in these ugly ones like I did, they're going to clean them out, they're going to make them more uniform. Did you see how they were wavy? Let me get down here so you can see me, even though you can't see my face. You know, they were wavy and uneven. Well, they fix all that. If they're a strong hive and they're getting lots of nectar, they'll fix all that comb. If it's in the fall, they don't always get to fixing it all. But on these new frames that I put in, this comb was drawn last year, so it's fresh wax. They'll probably fix all of it. And so you see how calm they are? They're happy. These bees, these girls here are finding their way to their queen. And if you were here, you could hear this. There's a roar a little bit, and that's because they're fanning the new queen pheromone so that the bees can find them, because they realize that they were moved. Even though I moved them from here to there, they realize that they were moved. So they're putting, if you were a bee, you'd be able to smell this or see it, they don't really know, a color or something coming out of this that indicates that that's your queen. We call it smells because it's pheromones, but they don't really know. Like, you know, it's what we understand as a smell.
And how long will we wait until we add another box on top of that one?
That's a fantastic question. So, typically they're going to say 8 frames of bees. So we have already 5, right? There's no bones about it. Really have 5 frames of bees. I guess you could say it was 4 because that one was nectar, but there's a lot of bees on there, and there's a lot of bees that are going to hatch out in the next 10 days. So I would say once you get out to here, you got 8 frames. This is a 10-frame hive. If you got 8 frames covered, you're going to want to add the next box. And depending on whether it's foundation or whether it's drawn comb, if it's foundation, you may want to take, and it's warm, like it's getting warm, it's not getting freezing at night, it's staying in the 50s or the 60s, depending on where you live in the world, then you could bring some of these up to that box, because if you do that, the bees, like I said, you put one of those combs in between the bees, they draw it up faster if it's in between them. So if you just took this and you put a whole new box of foundation on the top, even though they want room, they might not go up there, because to them it's not room, it's just undrawn comb. If it's comb, they see it as room and they will immediately go up there. Like literally, you can put it on, go to lunch, come back an hour later, and you take the top off, and they're all up in there cleaning it and figuring out what they're going to do.
And how do I know which frame to pull up to the top?
Well, you kind of just decide, you know, maybe these 2. So if these 8, do every other one, do like 3 and leave 5 in the bottom and 3 in the top. And so you don't have to worry about the top ones getting cold, because remember, heat rises. So these guys are making a lot of heat down there, and that heat goes up. Really have to worry about the bottom getting colder. That's why everything is up off the ground, especially here where we live. We don't get snow this time of year, but sometimes it gets pretty cold. The other day, my wife lost a couple of flowers. We had frost. What was it, May 8th? Yeah. So, you know, they say don't put any tomatoes or anything in until May 15th. So it really depends on where you live in the world. but that's a general thing. 8 frames. That is if you have a 10 frame hive. If you're running 8 frame equipment, then obviously you don't want to wait till there's 8 frames, because what's going to happen is once this hive senses that they don't have any more room, they're going to try to swarm. They're going to start the swarm preparedness. They're going to make those queen cups. They're going to put an egg in it, and then they're going to start making queen cells. So that's the other reason that every 10 to 14 days you go in here, because if I can go in here and on day 14, they would have a queen cell. She wouldn't be able to probably come out until day 16, and I'd be able to kill it as long as she was still in here, and I could keep them from swarming. I could add some more equipment. I'd probably have to go in a couple of more times because you don't get rid of the swarm instinct right away. It takes several iterations, but eventually you can get rid of it. You can just keep killing those cells as long as she hasn't left, and eventually they figure out, well, all right, whatever, we're not going to swarm, and we're just going to do the honey flow. Because once you get in an intense honey flow in your part of the country or the world, they usually give up the swarm thing because they want to store honey, because that's what they want to store honey so they can overwinter. That's not necessarily always the case, because some places in the world they have extra long seasons and several honey flows, but in our part of the world, if I can get them through till July, I don't have to worry about swarming usually until August or September, because those are the ones that build up again.
We'll show how to split one in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we'll show more information. If you click on that link and get your quick start guide, you'll be on our email list, and we'll give you a notification of our new videos, because you don't always get it when you subscribe to a channel on YouTube. And even if you press the subscribe bell, sometimes you don't get it because they only give a small percentage of the subscribers notification, because we have almost 10,000 now, and so they don't send it out to everybody. They just send it out to a small percentage, just because the algorithm wants to see if people are interested in that video before they send it to everybody, and that's fine. But if you get on the email list, you'll get notified of all our new videos, all our new trainings, and all the new stuff that we'll be doing. Was that?
More questions?
Is there any more questions about putting a nucleus into this little guy, and what you should do?
I put inside the chat that we buy an extra queen for every 4 or 5 hives.
Yep.
You want to talk about that?
We get extra queens for in case one of these is dead. We don't have to worry about it, but as you saw, there was so many eggs and so much larvae. If that queen had died, they would just make a new one and it would be fine. Only going to take 14 days. She's going to go out, get mated, come back and start laying. This early in the season, it probably wouldn't affect it at all. When it starts to get more perilous is toward in the fall, when your drones are already dead, or the drones are getting close to being dead, and there's no males to mate with, then you start having problems, and you might have to call somebody that lives in Hawaii or somewhere that's warmer and get a queen in the fall.
Or if you buy a lot of packages.
Or if you buy a lot of packages, you usually get some queens. The rule is 4%. So if you bought 40 packages, whatever 4% of that is, 1.6. So you might get two queens for free, because that's the general rule, is how many is going to fail in a package is 4%. But you see they're all calm. Let me see. I'm going to grab the camera now and see if I can pull it off there. Or just going to move it like this. Don't get seasick, guys. But I just want you to see how calm they are. They've been moved, but they're just chilling. They're just like, hey, okay, we like our new place. We like this new comb. This is the beauty of honeybees. If you treat them right, they'll treat you right. Sorry this went a little bit long. We're going to try to get through this as quick as possible, because I know that everyone's time is very valuable. And I hope you enjoyed watching this installation. And I hope you will join us and get your quick start guide, even if you're not ready to do it this year. Maybe you're just looking at this and say, oh, next year I'm going to do bees, or the year after. Just get the guide and start reading about bees.
Where's your guide?
Oh, I forgot. My guide. Here it is. So, my wife said, hey, put this in the sleeve so you don't get propolis on it. Look, she's a teacher and she does all that. She does everything in notebooks and binders, and look how beautiful that is. It's a guide, it's got some charts, got some information, got some other videos that we did. We've got it in a binder. You could do this and collect all the ones that we're going to do in the future, and you'd have a full course, and you could start teaching your husband or wife or brother or son to do beekeeping, and you could be the expert. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Thanks for sharing. Please hit the like or the share if you got any value out of this at all. It will really help us in the YouTube algorithm. People find it so that new beekeepers can learn something. And as always, be extraordinary.